समस्त लोक सुखिनो भवन्तु।
समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु।
समस्त लोक सुखिनो भवन्तु।
समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु।
समस्त लोक सुखिनो भवन्तु।
समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु।
शांति शांति शांति।
तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
नमामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत शृण्वन्नोतिभिस्सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती दीनामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्। ॐ नमो भगवते रुद्राय ॐ नमस्ते रुद्रमन्यवमुतोर्दैशवे नमः नमस्ते अस्तु धन्वने बाहुभ्यामुदते नमः या तैषु शिवतमा शिवं बभूवते तनुः शिवा शरव्याया तव तया नो रुद्रमृडया या ते रुद्रशिवा तनूरघोरा पापकाशिनी तया नस्तनुभाषन्तमया गिरिशं ताभिजागशीः यामिषुं गिरिशन्तहस्ते विभक्ष्यस्तवे शिवां गिरित्रतां कुरु माहि पुंसि पुरुषं जगत् शिवेन वचसा वागिरिशाच्चावदामसि यदा नः सर्वमिज्जगदयक्ष्मगुं सुमना असत् अद्य वोचदति भक्ता प्रथमो नैव्योऽभिषत् अहीतुश्च सर्वान् जम्बयन् सर्वाश्च यातु नान्यः असौ यस्ताम्रो अरुण उत बभ्रुः सुमङ्गलः ये चेमागुं रुद्रा अवितो दिक्षु श्रुताः सहस्रशो वैशाखुं हेडयीमहे असौ योपसर्पति नीलग्रीवो विलोहितः उतैनं गोपा अदृशन्नदृशन्नुदहार्यः उतैनं विश्वा भूतानि स दृष्टो मृडयादिनः नमो अस्तु नीलग्रीवाय सहस्राक्षाय मीडुषे अतो ये अस्य सत्त्वानोऽहं तेभ्यो करन्नमः प्रमुञ्चदन्वनस्त्वमुभयोराग्नियोज्या याश्च ते हस्तैषवः पराता भगवो वपा अवतत्यदनुस्त्वगुं सहस्रांशशतेषु ते निशीर्य शल्यानां शिवो नः सुमना भवा विज्यं दनुःखपर्दिनो विशल्यो मानवागुम्भुता अनेशन्नस्येषव आमुरस्य निशङ्गतिः या ते हेतिर्मीदुष्टमहस्ते बभूवते गनुः तयास्मान् विश्वतस्त्वमयक्ष्मया परिभुजा नमस्ते अस्त्वायुधायानादकाय कृष्णवे उवाभ्यामुदते नमो बाहुभ्यां तव धन्वने परिते धन्वनो हेतिरस्मान् वृणक्तु विश्वतः अतो य इषुधिस्तवारे अस्मन्निदेहितम् नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। 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 शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी आनंद रूपिणी जग जननी आनंद रूपिणी जग जननी सदानंद रूपिणी साई जननी रूपिणी साई जननी आदि पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी आदि पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी भैरवी शंकरी भव भयहारिणी भैरवी शंकरी भव भयहारिणी भैरवी शंकरी भव भयहारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी आनंद रूपिणी जग जननी आनंद रूपिणी जग जननी आदि पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी आदि पराशक्ति अभय प्रदायिनी भैरवी शंकरी भव भयहारिणी भैरवी शंकरी भव भयहारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी दुर्गा चंडी दुरित निवारिणी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी माता महेश्वरी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी माता महेश्वरी गौरी शिवानी अम्बा भवानी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी दशरथ नंदन रामा दया सागरा रामा 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 दशमुख मर्दन रामा दैत्य कुलांतक 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 रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा लक्ष्मी मनोहर रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा लक्ष्मी मनोहर रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा रामा लक्ष्मी मनोहर रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा रामा वदना सूक्ष्म स्वरूपा सुंदर वदना दशरथ नंदन रामा दया सागरा रामा दशरथ नंदन रामा दया सागरा रामा दशमुख मर्दन रामा दैत्य कुलांतक रामा दशमुख मर्दन रामा दैत्य कुलांतक रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा लक्ष्मी मनोहर रामा लक्ष्मण सेवित रामा लक्ष्मी मनोहर रामा सूक्ष्म स्वरूपा रामा सुंदर वदना रामा सूक्ष्म स्वरूपा रामा सुंदर वदना रामा अति सूक्ष्म स्वरूपा रामा सुंदर वदना रामा अति सूक्ष्म स्वरूपा रामा सुंदर वदना रामा दशरथ नंदन रामा दया सागरा रामा नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी बाजे मृदंग मंजुल भेरी बाजे मृदंग बाजे मृदंग मंजुल भेरी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी करुणांतरंगा युगावतारी करुणांतरंगा युगावतारी करुणांतरंगा युगावतारी करुणांतरंगा युगावतारी श्री साई रंगा भव भयहारी 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 नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी बाजे मृदंग मंजुल भेरी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी करुणातरंगा युगावतारी श्री साई रंगा भव भयहारी श्री साई रंगा भव भयहारी नाचे त्रिभंग कृष्ण मुरारी नीलकंठ महादेव गौरी वंदना नीलकंठ महादेव गौरी वंदना नीलकंठ महादेव गौरी वंदना नीलकंठ महादेव गौरी वंदना चंद्रचूड दयानाथ नंदी वाहना चंद्रचूड दयानाथ नंदी वाहना चंद्रचूड दयानाथ नंदी वाहना चंद्रचूड दयानाथ नंदी वाहना सांब शिवा शूलधारी नागभूषणा सांब शांति शांति
Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering our humble pranams at Bhagwan's divine lotus feet. Esteemed elders, dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. To dwell deeper on the significance of yagnas as described in Bhagavad Gita, this evening we have an eminent scholar of Vedanta and Mimamsa, Sri Goda Ishwar Sharma, addressing the august gathering. Son of the illustrious scholar Advaita Siddhi Ratnakara, Sri Goda Venkateshwara Shastrulu, Sri Ishwar Sharma has firm grounding in Vedanta and Mimamsa Shastras and is an honored speaker in Kanchi Kamakoti Matha and Sri Jnana Nandanatha Nilayam. Sri Ishwar Sharma, along with his elder brother, annually organize Vidvat Sadas and conduct Shatachandi Homam. He is also an illustrious alumnus of the IIT Madras. This evening, he will be speaking to us on the topic Significance of Yagnas as described in Bhagavad Gita. Please welcome Sri Goda Ishwar Sharma. Sai Ram.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I would like to talk about the Karma Yoga here. Karma Yoga is the third chapter in Bhagavad Gita. So basically, the topic for today is the significance of yagas as per Bhagavad Gita. So we all know Bhagavad Gita, it's a huge ocean of knowledge. It's a life lesson for us. But if we have to search for a specific topic, it is not very difficult also. So significance of yagas, immediately Bhagavan says, I have Karma Yoga for you. You can talk from there. Right? So the third chapter, Karma Yoga, before I start explaining that, let us dwell on the significance. What is the relationship between Bhagavad Gita and this Atirudra Mahayaga? Why are we talking about Bhagavad Gita here when we are doing this Atirudra Mahayaga? Well, a lot of us, knowing the difficulties in doing karmas, the yagas, it is so very difficult to do this Atirudra Mahayaga and kind of thing. We just have to imagine for Atirudra, we have to do 14,641 times Rudra Parayanam, 1,331 times Chamaka Parayanam. We need 121 Veda Pandits and we need 11 Homakundas, right? So for people who actually do this yaga, even doing one homa, how difficult it is, they don't realize. It is like every single mantra has to be told perfectly. Every single action has to be done in the exact order and kind of thing. So anything wrong, it will not give the phala which you want kind of thing. So when we have to do so much with so much difficulty, is it really worth it? Why do we have to do it? Right? That is the question which everybody will have. Right? And the immediate answer is Lord Shiva would be very happy by seeing this. And then he will bless us with all the things. But is that correct? No. Because Lord Shiva does not need a Atirudra Yaga to be a happy. He is Sada Ananda Swarupi. Lord Shiva is a Ashutoshi. Even a little bit of bhakti from you. Ekam hi bilvam salilam dikinchit samarpitam shankara bhakti murdya. So one bilva and one drop of water with pure heart and bhakti is what Lord Shiva needs. He does not need thousands and thousands of Rudra Parayanams for you. Right? So then if Lord Shiva is not the beneficiary, then who is it? It is you. The beneficiary of this Atirudra Mahayaga, whoever is doing it, whoever is attending it, whoever is attending it virtually or whoever is attending it physically, is the person himself. So how does it benefit us? So that is what Bhagavan starts in Bhagavad Gita saying there are two margas, karma marga and jnana marga. Right? Karma marga is where you have to do your actions as ordained by the Vedas, and jnana margas is what you try to gain knowledge as whatever is told in the Vedas kind of thing. Now, when we talk about karma marga and jnana marga, what immediately sees is what is everybody looking for in this world? Everybody is looking for happiness. But whatever happiness we get is temporary. Any happiness is always filled with a tinge of sadness as well. Even the richest person in this world is worried about when his money will go off, when the stock market will crash, when the stocks will go. The poorest person is worried about where his next meal will come from. The person in the middle is worried about the budget, how much taxes will go for him, kind of thing. So every person, irrespective of where he is, whatever his social status, is worried. So irrespective of how much ever happiness he has, his happiness is mixed with a tinge of sadness as well. So it is temporary and it is mixed with sadness. So the only way of getting permanent happiness is moksha, and that moksha can be only gained through knowledge. Jnana devatu kaivalyam. So which means that through knowledge is the only means of permanent happiness. If that is the case, why don't everybody go into jnana marga? Why does anybody have to do all this karma with great difficulty? Right? This is exactly what Arjuna is asking. Arjuna vacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhirjanadana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. Oh Keshava, you are my friend. You are my relative. I consider you very, very close. In spite of knowing that karma marga is so filled with difficulties, and what it finally gives is only temporary happiness, why do you want to push me in this karma marga? Why don't you tell me about this jnana marga so that I can do that? What Arjuna is specifically looking for is a defense of whatever he showed in the first chapter, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, where he says, I will not fight anymore because there is nothing more papa than killing my own guru, kind of thing. His inaction, he wanted the Lord himself to defend, saying, Arjuna, what you are doing is correct. But Krishna, I'm sorry to say, did not give any kind of acknowledgement, right? So which means that, why are you pushing me into this karma marga when you know that jnana marga is the better thing? Vyamishrene vavakyene buddhim mohasiva me tadekam vadanishchitya yena shreyo ahamanapyam. So you are telling both. You are telling karma marga is good, you are telling jnana marga is good. So it is a mixture of both. I am totally confused. For you, you might be right from the position you are speaking. But for me, I am totally confused, Krishna. So please tell me which is the correct marga to follow. So at which Bhagavan says, Lokesmin vivida nishta pura prokta maya naga jnana yoge na sankhyanam karma yoge na yoginam. So Vedanta in Sanatana Dharma is one such Shastra which doesn't really say, you have to listen to me. Whatever I say, you should not ask questions. That is not the way Vedanta works. The student can interrupt the teacher at any time, ask any kind of questions. No question is wrong. No question is too simple, or no question is too difficult. The Guru is always happy to answer you, because if you do not understand that position, your mind will not be in a position to accept anything further. Right? So Arjuna asking any kind of question, Krishna is more than happy to answer. And he says, not only now, in the beginning of the Srishti itself, I had told that there are two margas, Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga is for, Jnana Yoga is for people who has already got Chitta Shuddhi, who has got the equanimity of heart. And how is that Chitta Shuddhi got? By doing karma. So if you do not do karma, you do not get Chitta Shuddhi, which means you are not in a position to accept Jnana Marga. Once you do the karma, once you get Chitta Shuddhi, the Lord will automatically lead you to a Guru, and the Guru will remove all your ignorance. Gukaro antakarasya trukaro tannivartakaha, which means the darkness in your heart is removed by the Guru. But you have to be in a position to accept whatever is being told by the Guru. That can only be got by getting Chitta Shuddhi. That can only be got by doing karma. So these Jnana Marga and Karma Marga are not complementary. They are serial. So once you do karma marga, you get chitta shuddhi, and then you are in a position to accept the jnana which is given by the guru. So then Krishna goes on to say, na karmana anaramba naishkaryam pujasoshnute nacha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati. So basically you will not, by just not doing any karma, you will not attain chitta shuddhi. You will not be in a position to renunciate and then attain whatever knowledge is given to you. Why is it? Nahi kaschit shanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krite karyate hyavasha karma sarva prakriti gunaihi. Unfortunately, the human mind is not stable anytime. Nobody can be without doing anything. So you either do good things or you do bad things. You just cannot remain without doing anything at all. Not only through the organs, but through the mind also. I will say that, I will not do anything. I will just sit in a place and just keep thinking. Thinking also is a way of doing punya or papa. Thinking good things is punya and thinking bad things is papa. So even if you don't do anything, just by mind, you keep thinking something. If it is not good, it is automatically giving you papa. So there is no way that you cannot gain any punya or papa. It has to be either punya or papa. So there is no other marga in which you not do anything. So in any second, there is not a possibility of not thinking anything at all. The human mind is so very unstable. Karmendriya nisamyamya yaste manasasmaran indriyartan vimudatma mityacharassa uchate. So a person who controls his all these karmendriyas, all these sense organs with his manas, he who always encourages it towards the right activities like yaga, puja and all. He is the one who will go ahead in his life. The one who is not able to control his sense organs or his mind, who will always be in his own fanatic world and he will not able to come out of it. That's why Bhagavan says, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hya karmanaha sharirayatra pichatena prasiddhyeta karmanaha. So that is why, O Arjuna, keep doing the karma, because without doing the karma, even your everyday activities like maintaining your body also is not possible. Now he starts giving another reason. Sahayagnya praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasa vishwadvam yeshavo asti ashtakamaduk. So basically he says this Prajapati created this Vedas and then created this world, created this yajnas, and then he said, this is how you gain happiness. You do these yagas, you do these pujas, and then you gain happiness. Devan bhavayataneta te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayanta shreyam paramavapsyata. So you do the yagas, you do the havis. The havis goes to devas. The devas get all the things which they want, and then they bless you with whatever worldly things you want. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva dasyante yajna bhavitaha tairdattan apradayebhyo yobungte estena evasaha. Now Bhagavan has actually gone to a level where he actually makes us feel guilty about this. In case you take all the bhogas which the devas give and you don't do anything to give back to them, you are only an enjoyer, you are not a contributor, then you are like a robber. So he says, Thena evasaha. A robber is the person who takes from somebody who does not give to anybody. So you are happily enjoying all the worldly pleasure which is given by the devatas. You are not giving him back, which means you are like a robber. Yagnasishta shinasanto muchante sarvakil bishaihi bujjate tu agam papaha ye pachanti atmakaranat. So the person who cooks for himself and then without giving any naivedya to the Bhagavan, who does not show it, who does not give any offerings to the lords, is only creating a papa for himself. So everything, so basically what we do is every day before eating whatever we cooked, we give some naivedya to, we show it to Bhagavan and then give the offering and then we eat it. Just imagine one day Bhagavan eats a little bit of what you have taken, right? So that is the day in which you will stop doing naivedyam. Rice is so costly, the fruits are so costly, and then in spite of that, I have to cook for myself, I have to give for Bhagavan also. Right? How unfair is this world? And then you will stop doing naivedya also. Right? So, but Bhagavan is never taking. So, in spite of knowing that, why are we refusing to show Naivedya to Bhagavan, right? So he is the person who gave us all. He's not going to take even a little bit of what you are offering. Then why is it that we are not able to show a little bit to Bhagavan before taking it ourselves? Right? So, and then like life cycle, he also explains, Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhavaha yajñad bhavati parjanyo yajña karma samudbhavaha karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahma akshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajñe pratishtitam evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayati yaha aghayurindriya ramo mogam partha sajivati. So, it's like a life cycle. So, Parjanyat Anna Sambhava. Rain creates Anna. Annat Bhavati Bhutani. From Anna, we get all these bhutas, all the whatever dhanyas, everything. Yajñat Bhavati Parjanyaha. Yajña is basically whenever we do any yaga kind of thing, we create something known as Apurva. In Mimamsa Shastra, we talk something about Apurva, which is there in your heart, which will show you that you have done a yaga kind of thing. Right? Because yajna is done here and yajna gives Swargaloka and Swargaloka is after your death. So the only way to know that you have done yaga is a creation of Apurva which is there in your heart, which is agreed by the Mimamsa scholars. So here yajna refers to Apurva. Yajñat bhavati parjanyaha yajña karma samudbhava. Here karma means yaga. So why are we doing these yagas? These yagas create the Apurva. These Apurvas go to the Devatas, then they give rain and from the rain comes Anna kind of thing. So the very reason why you are existing because of the rain, because of whatever agriculture is only because we are doing these yagas, this Atirudra yaga and so many yagas are the ones which are contributing to the day-to-day living of whatever we are enjoying right now. Right? So evam pravartitam chakram. So this wheel of life, right? So if we don't follow it, if we are only taking it and if we are only not contributing to it, then aghayuho indriya ramaha. We are having lots of papa. So we are creating a lot of papa to ourselves. So not only doing bad things is creating papa, just enjoying things without contributing to society is also a huge papa. So yastu atmaratireva asyat atmatruptashta manavaha atmanyeva santushtaha tasya karyam cha vidyati. So, for a Atma Jnani, for the person who is in Jnana Marga, who has already got Chitta Shuddhi, for him all this is not there. He is satisfied by only his Atma kind of thing. Going ahead, Krishna says, Karmanye vahi samsiddhim astita janaka dayaha loka sangrahamevapi samsprishan kartumarhasi. Not only us, there are a lot of great people like Janaka and Yagnavalkya and so many people who have done these yagas and shown us that these kind of yagas are absolutely necessary for living. Not only those great people, also I myself, yadyadya charati shreshtaha tattadeva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokasta danuvartate. Any time we get any doubt how to do it, always we follow the elders in the family or the elders in the society. They show us the path, what is to be done, what yaga has to be done, what puja has to be done. So, and the whole world follows, whether they read Vedas or not, whether they read the Dharma Shastras or not, they look up to people, the elders, and they follow what they do. So which means the elders, if they don't do these yagas and pujas, the younger generation will not learn. That is why Krishna says, Name partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana na anaptam avaptavyam vartaye vacha karmani. I don't really need to get anything more. I already have everything I have, Krishna says. So then why am I born in this world? Why am I doing all this karma? Why am I a charioteer to you? Why am I looking to establish dharma? I am here to establish dharma as working as your charioteer and to destroy adharma. What is the necessity for me? That is because yadihyaham nakarte varteyam jatu karman atandritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Because people follow me. If I don't do, people will say Krishna himself is not doing, then why should I do? Krishna himself is not doing Sandhya Vandana, why should I do? Krishna himself is not doing his yagas and karmas kind of thing, then why should I do? Tasmat utside yurime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyani ma prajaha. So the whole society will get destroyed. If I don't do, people will follow me and they will also not do, which means that the whole society will get destroyed without any kind of dharmas. Also, Krishna goes ahead and says, not only that, even those who are in the Jnana Marga, those who are already attained Chitta Shuddhi, they should encourage others. They should say, no, don't do this. Go to the Jnana Marga, go and read Vedanta. No, that is not the way to say. All those people who have already attained Chitta Shuddhi, who are in the Jnana Marga also, they should also keep encouraging those people who are doing this kind of yagas, because that is the only way of getting Chitta Shuddhi to enter into Jnana Marga. So basically he says, Na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yuktas samacharan. So don't advise saying philosophy is the best, right? Once you read philosophy, once you read Vedanta, there is nothing required. No karma is required. You have already reached the pinnacle of your life. All that is absolutely false, because the person who has actually read Vedanta and who has actually, it is like in English they say empty vessels make more noise kind of thing. The person who has already attained so much will never speak saying that I have got so much knowledge kind of thing. The person who is silent, who is like Dakshinamurti Swarupa. Dakshinamurti said, Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Para Brahma Tattvam Vivanam. By silent, just by his looks, he teaches the Vedanta to his Sishyas kind of thing. So really knowledgeable people, they not only remain silent, they encourage people to do karma, and they encourage people to attain Chitta Shuddhi, and then only come to Jnana Marga. So that's what Krishna says, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimoodartha kartaham iti manyate. So finally he goes ahead and says, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Which means that he says, not only should we do karma, we should do karma without any need for phala kind of, I want this varga, I want this phala kind of thing. If you give everything to Bhagavan, Bhagavan will take care of my phala, whatever, he knows what is required for me. And then you do the yaga as per samarpana, kayena vacha manasendriyeva buddhyatmanava prakritesva bhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami. You give it to him, he will give you. He knows what you want, right? He will not give you what is more than required. Sometimes you get more than what is required. They say in Telugu, they say ativrishti, anavrishti, right? You ask for rain and then you get a full 1 month continuous rainfall and all the fields get destroyed. That is not what we want. And then you say, I don't want rain, please, enough of rain, and then it continuously stops for 1 year. That is also not what we want. So Bhagavan knows when to give, what to give, how much to give, right? You don't have to ask him. You just have to give everything to him and say, oh Bhagavan, I've done samarpana to you in your lotus feet. You know what is required for me. Please take care. The only thing I am asking for you is please give me constant reminders. Please, in spite of in this world where I get pulled from here and there every day morning I have to go to office, say good morning to my officers and all this kind of thing. This is not what I want. What I want is my mind to be fixed in your lotus feet. I request you to please grant me this. This is what I want. And then finally, Arjuna goes and says, I really want to do all these good things, but somehow my mind gets pulled into all the wrong things. I want to do only punya, but somehow my mind is pulling me towards papa. What should I do now? Atake na prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya bala divani yojitaha. Even if I don't want anichannapi o varshneya, o person who is born in the Vrishnikula, please help me, because even if I don't want, I am doing papa. For which Bhagavan says, Indriyana mano buddhir asyadishtana muchyate yeter vimohatyesha jnanama avritya dehinam. Indriyani paranahyo indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhir paratastusa. So these indriyas, the manas controls the indriyas go towards the object, the buddhi controls the mind. So if you are able to control this buddhi, if you are strong-willed, and you say that in spite of whatever my nature pulls me towards all the bad actions, I will stay strong, I will make sure I will not do any papa kind of thing, then I will surely go in the right path, I will surely attain this karma marga, and through that the jnana marga, and then attain the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So he says finally, evam buddhe param buddhva sanstabhya atmanatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. you can defeat this enemy called karma, and then you attain whatever you want in your life. So whatever we said in Bhagavad Gita about this karma marga, it is not like it is only told in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Ishavasya Upanishad also, in the second sloka, it says, Kurvan neveha karmani jijivishet shatagum sama evam tvayina nyatotosti na karma lipyate nare. So throughout your life, you have to live by doing karma only. That is the only way of escaping wrong actions. And also in the Kata Upanishad, it says, Lokadimagnim tamuvacha tasmai yaishtaka yavatirva yatava. And then in Prashna Upanishad, the Sishyas, when they go and reach Pippalada Rishi, they say, Teha samit panayo bhagavantam pippaladam anuchanamana. So basically, they samit panihi, they said. So they go, the only thing which Guru wants is samit. Why do you need samit? To do yaga. So basically, even though the Guru is a jnani, he is now in a position to give the jnana to all his disciples, he is still doing his karma. He still requests this samit. So that is why the Sishyas while going to the Guru, that is the only thing which they need to do. Guru does not want money from you. Guru does not want cars from you. Guru does not want any lands, anything from you. He does not want any kind of material objects from you. The only thing he wants is Shraddha. He wants you to attain liberation. He wants you to become as good as him in the jnana kind of thing. So, but to do his everyday karma, he requires this samit. So, samit panim is what they say in Prashna Upanishad. So, indirectly in Prashna Upanishad also, they are encouraging this karma marga kind of thing. So, various Upanishads also talk about this karma marga. It is not like only Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says. So, for us, Veda is the pramana in Sanatana Dharma. Whatever Veda says is true. So, which means that we believe that whatever told by Veda is something which we have to do. So, that is the pramana for us. So, Veda itself through the Upanishad says this karma marga is absolutely necessary to attain liberation, to attain Chitta Shuddhi, and through Chitta Shuddhi attain the Jnana marga, attain a Guru, the Guru who will remove the darkness from your heart and make you attain the Jnana, and through that the moksha, which will give you permanent happiness and which will avoid future birth and death kind of. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायं उदीरयेत् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायं उदीरयेत् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायं उदीरयेत्.
Offering my most loving pranams at Bhagwan's Lotus Feet. Dear listeners, I welcome you to this week's episode, and it's my pleasure to join you all from our studios at Prasanthi Connect, as we do every week at 7:30 on Thursdays.
शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुम् प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवम् वेगम् स युक्तः स सुखी नरः.
One who can withstand here itself before departing from the body, the impulse arising from desires and anger, that man is a yogi. He is happy. That is verse 23 of the 5th chapter. In the previous shloka, which I just summarized, Krishna spoke about the jnani who knows that all pleasures born out of interaction with the world are dukkha yonaya, generators of misery, and they are able to cause misery by the fact that they have a beginning and the end. Just what I said before I played that shloka for you. When they are taken away, I am miserable. And in pursuit of these pleasures, also I am miserable, because till I acquire the pleasure, I am craving for it, I am chasing after it, I am miserable in the process of acquiring it, I am in misery after it is taken away too. So for a very brief time, probably the pleasure is enjoyed. And this only makes me more miserable when it is taken away, right? The very fact that it is pleasurable for that brief time makes it even more painful when it is taken away. So the jnani knows this and no more seeks to draw happiness from there, right? Like people who have, say, come out of addictions or have pursued the wrong path of, say, crime or a wayward lifestyle when they were teenagers, after they grow a little older, they become wiser, and probably they'll come and advise others that don't go after these things. They are not worth going after. Of course, still, some of us will say, look, it is my life. I will make the same mistakes myself and then I will learn. I will not learn from your mistakes. That can only be termed as foolishness, isn't it? As I always like to say, life is way too short for us to make all the mistakes ourselves and then learn the lessons. We have to be, to a certain extent, prepared to learn from others' mistakes too. But that is how foolish some of us can be. We see before our eyes certain habits ruin a person's life, ruin a person's health. In fact, if you look at it in India, and I'm sure it's true in some other countries too, if there is a scene of drinking or smoking that is displayed in the television, they display a message saying that we are not promoting these habits are injurious to your health. But still we say, no, who are you to tell me what I should do? I will drink, I will smoke, I will ruin my health. And then I will say these pleasures are dukkha yonayaha, sources of misery. Yes, you have become wise at the end of it, right? You've spoiled your health, you've spoiled your life, and at the end of it you've become wise. But you've become wise at what cost? That is why such life of running behind such pleasures are plain foolishness, right? But not all pleasures are so obviously dangerous also. But all pleasures are of the same nature. That is why all of them are clubbed under this category of bahya sparsha. All of these come under the same category. Some are less harmful than the others. Some harm shows up in a longer time frame. But nevertheless, the nature of all of these are same, and that nature is adyantavantah. They have a beginning and they have an end, and they eventually lead to a very similar feeling of, oh, it was not worth all the effort. So this realization is perfected in the case of a jnani. And not for a moment you can fool him or her into falling for such pleasures, because this wisdom has been established. But when it comes to even mature living, to an extent this understanding is necessary, isn't it? I think that's the point I'm trying to make. That even to ensure that I live happy, I live a wholesome and fulfilled life on this earth, forget about moksha, forget about having a place in heaven or going into some other plane of existence. Even to live a happy life in this world, I need this mature thinking. I need this simple understanding that I cannot make these mistakes. I will have to look at the other person and learn. And this is simple, mature living, right? So this shloka and the next few shlokas are going to make a reference to that common sense, which has become so uncommon, as Swami would say. Because basically a jnani is essentially the same as you and me. What we struggle to be, he or she has become has become perfect in that, right? And he has become that, and he is being that. I love a few people in my life. The jnani just loves. His love is not directed to a few people, these people and those people. He just loves. Whoever comes in contact with the jnani is loved. Similarly, I try to be good. The jnani is in a state of such goodness that nothing can stop him or her from being good. So in a certain sense, these qualities are required for a happy living in this lifetime itself. As I think, if I'm not wrong, the Science Bias quote for today, or the one which was yesterday, I'm not too sure. Swami speaks of that. Swami says that the difference between a sahaja manava, a normal person, and a sadhaka, or a person of a spiritual bent of mind, is only that the difference between a grain of rice and boiled rice. Essentially the same, but the nature completely changes, and that is what is the difference here. We also need happiness and peace. We also need a bit of common sense for our life. But in the case of a jnani, all of these is perfected. His source of happiness is within, and that happiness is inexhaustible. His source of common sense is also within, which again is the perfect common sense. He is a sthira buddhihi, right? As we saw in the previous verse, his intellect is established. It can never be distracted from that understanding. So it is not that when I die, people will say, okay, now he will rest in peace. No, I want that peace even when I am living right now. So the whole idea is, the goal of the spiritual path must be that I want to experience this higher happiness now. Because not only are we pursuing that supreme peace and bliss, but we need peace and happiness even as we live in this world today. So in this shloka, Krishna speaks of a jnani as someone who has achieved this understanding in this very lifetime itself. But the reference is of course not merely to the pleasure itself, but what such pleasures cause in us. We will look at that briefly. But he begins by saying, Shaknoti iha eva yaha. Shaknoti means is able to or can. Iha eva, here itself. Shaknoti iha eva yaha. One who is able to hear itself. Prak sharira vimokshanat. Prak means before or prior to. Sharira vimokshanat. Liberation from the body, which means before death or before end of this lifetime. So the reference is to one who is able to achieve this here itself, meaning in this earthly plane itself. Prak sharira vimokshanat. Before one gives up the body. And what is that achievement that we are talking about? Sodhum, withstanding or enduring. Kama krododbhavam vegam. The force or vegam that is born out of kama and krodha, desire and anger. What happens to a person who is able to achieve this in this very lifetime? Sayuktaha sa sukhi naraha. Sayuktaha sa sukhi naraha. The man is a yogi and he is happy. As simple as that. When you achieve this, you are happy. Right? And who doesn't want to be happy, and who is not seeking happiness? That's why I said the spiritual journey is nothing but the search for happiness, which has led you to look in the right place. So he becomes a yogi and a sukhi naraha. So a person may not be spiritual or is not made aware of the spiritual journey. Let's say that a person is still a good worldly person. He or she is still lost in worldly pursuits. Even such a person will have to do with withstanding the force of kama krodha. Kama krododbhavam vegam. Because everyone wants to be a sukhi naraha, a happy person. Well, if you say, no, I want to be depressed. There are people like that, right? They say that I would like to remain in my sad state. Such people need help. They need treatment. Really, if someone says that I don't want to be happy, we say that that person is mentally unwell and needs professional help. Which means to be normal is to want to be happy. And so even a normal person needs this. A yogi is someone who has taken it to the next level. That's the only difference between a yogi and a normal person. As we've been seeing in all these verses, where he or she has changed one's nature so completely that they are incapable of being deluded again or being drawn to worldly pleasures again. But for now, we will talk about the shloka as being relevant for people like you and me who are still on the path, and for people who are not necessarily on the spiritual path, but they are just good individuals who want to lead a happy life in the world. So there are two important portions that we have to look into in this particular shloka. One we just spoke about. This is not something that has to be done so that we will be rewarded later. This is a sukha that Krishna is speaking of that has to be enjoyed in this world itself, that we crave for in this world itself. So that's the first part. The second part is this statement, Kama Krododbhavam Vegam, the force born out of desire and anger. So this connection between the senses, the likes and dislikes related to them, desire and anger, are constantly established in the Gita. In fact, if you recall, it was very clearly stated in the 3rd chapter that we had gone through. And this is almost like, this relationship between the senses, likes and dislikes, all of these kama krodha. This is somewhat like the blueprint of the human psyche, which the Gita uses as the basis for the explanation that it gives from different angles. It often happens that when you want to explain any problem in society, there are many ways of looking at it, but you choose one basic pattern and study that situation. Like a person who is into economics will look at the flow of money or the way people interact when it comes to monetary interactions. That is one way of looking at the whole society. Some other people would like to study the society from the basic human nature itself. So there is a certain blueprint that is taken, and all explanation is pretty much based on that. So in the Gita, the blueprint that is used is this explanation of the human psyche. So maybe before going forward, I will try to once again reiterate for our own benefit, for refreshing our memory, what is this blueprint that we are talking about here. And this is what it is. Each one of us have a nature or prakriti within. You have a certain nature, I have a certain nature, we are different, like that each one of us is unique. And this prakriti is in the subconscious mind. This prakriti in the subconscious mind manifests in the conscious mind as likes and dislikes with regards to the senses. There are some things I like to see, like to eat, like to smell. Similarly, there are some things that I don't like to see, and so on, right? So the prakriti or the nature in my subconscious mind surfaces in the conscious mind as likes and dislikes with regards to the senses. But each one of us is a complex and unique combination of such likes and dislikes, which we refer to as raga and dvesha. And that is what defines our personality. If I were to exhaustively list out all my raga and dvesha, that will be who I am. And similarly, if you list out all your ragas and dveshas, likes and dislikes, that is what will be who you are. Now, there are two influences in our life, influences from outside. When we talk about the influence from outside, they are, say, the fashion, the circumstances, the upbringing that we have gone through. So these are the external influences of this raga and dvesha. So there is an internal influence of our prakriti, which decides what our likes and dislikes are. And there are also external influences like the circumstances, the trends, and the way we are brought up. Those are also influences on our likes and dislikes. This raga and dvesha is also referred to as kama or desires, because broken down, my desires are nothing but what I want and what I don't want. And this is based on nothing but my likes and dislikes. So if I'm able to get what I like, it's fine. At that moment, no harm is done. But when I don't get what I want, or what I don't want is thrust upon me, I am agitated. So as a businessman, I want profit. I don't want loss. So if loss is thrust upon me, I am agitated. What happens when I get a profit? Yes, at that moment I am happy. But as we saw in the previous shloka, even when something gives me happiness, the sense pleasures, for example, will lead you eventually to a road of despair. I see a profit today, I will not say that, okay, I've got my profit, let me go home. I will say that I want more profit tomorrow. And it only makes me restless, and eventually there is a point where I will see a loss. So in that sense, the pursuit itself does not ever give that happiness, because that's a different point altogether. But the thing is, all of these ragas and dveshas are something that it will never, it does not give satisfaction, and at some point it will lead to agitation. That is the word which is important. That is why Kama Krodha is often spoken of as a unit, as a complex, as two things which go together. In a way, I feel this when we say Krodha here, it is not just anger, right? The word Krodha actually means anger, but it is not necessarily anger in the sense of rage. It is an agitation of the mind, which probably you could say includes all the other vices as well, of greed, of jealousy, of pride, lobha, mada, matsarya, as we say, right? So Kama Krodha is when you have desires, the agitation that it causes in mind is called Kama Krodha. And when there is Kama Krodha, it expresses itself in words and actions. We speak or do something harmful to ourselves or to others. So one thing is that we do something that we may regret later, but there is something more subtle that happens, which is every time I express this Kama Krodha in words or in actions, it also adds to this Prakriti in my subconscious mind. Right? This is how things work. And it is upon this model, right, starting from Prakriti to actions and words which eventually are expressed, and how that again adds to the Prakriti. This is the blueprint of the human psyche, that model that Gita explains to us, and what we are supposed to do with this is how we must live in our lives based on this blueprint, right? So Gita uses this blueprint to explain to us how to go about in this spiritual journey. Like in the previous shloka, this shloka that we went through, it hardly refers to a jnani, because Krishna has already said that sensual pleasures do not interest the jnani at all. So when there are no raga and dvesha for the senses, there can be no Kama Krodha or Kama Krododbhavam Vegam, the force that is born of this Kama and Krodha. So this shloka is clearly for people like us, whose senses can be stirred or the mind can be agitated, and we can have Kama and Krodha. Now there's one more thing we need to understand in the shloka. Krishna is not necessarily talking about all sorts of kamas or all sorts of desires. He's speaking specifically of such desires that can lead to agitation and that push us to action. As we go through life, we see a lot of fancy things in the world, and probably at that moment we will think, oh, this is very nice, or I would like to have that. But next moment we go on with our activities, right? That desire does not necessarily disturb my peace in that true sense. So Krishna is not speaking about such desires which come and go, right? In fact, the best way to deal with those desires is just let them come and go. Don't get too disturbed with them or don't cling on to them, right? So he is speaking of those desires that disturb the mind, that cause agitation in the mind. When you see something and you begin to actively crave for it, or a desire when it is denied, you get disturbed and you get agitated. We are speaking about such desires. If you recall, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna had explained about 3 types of desires, and he had done it through 3 very beautiful analogies. He had said desires cover the jnana like ash covers the embers, like dust covers the surface of a mirror, or like a fetus that is covered in a womb. And I think at that time we had discussed this in detail, that some desires don't have to be worried about, which are represented by that first analogy of ash covering embers. You can just blow them away, or keep your mind occupied with something else and they will eventually go away. Then you have the second type, which is dust on the mirror, and we spoke about how some desires will have to be countered. You take a wet cloth and you wipe the mirror. Similarly, when some desires come up, they have to be actively countered by other desires or nobler thoughts. Those are second kind of desires. And the third one is desires that will take a long time to work on and they will eventually go away, right? So the problem is with the second and the third types. which are more persistent and can cause problem and also require proactive treatment. So they are desires which once when they enter the mind make us feel incomplete and more importantly propel us to act. That propelling to act is what is referred to as kama krododbhavam vegam, that force that is born from kama krodha. In fact, in his bhashyam or commentary, Adi Shankara goes on to describe a few physical reactions with which these kind of desires can be identified. And I don't think they are comprehensive, and they were not meant to be comprehensive too. But just to give us an idea, Adi Shankara goes on to say, he says, when you have this kind of desires which lead to kama krodha, which lead to that vegam born out of kama krodha, he says it will cause romanchana, horripilation, prakrishta netrad vadana, the eyes and face light up or they are flushed. Similarly, the force of anger is seen as gatra prakampa, shaking of the body, or prasveda, sweating, or I don't know what that means, biting of one's lips, or the eyes becoming bloodshot. Right? These are all the Sanskrit verses, the words that he uses in his bhashyam to describe the physical reactions when you are being driven by this kind of kama krodha. Well, as you can see, these are not necessarily comprehensive or mandatory, but what is being driven home here is these are physical manifestations of a mental aberration or a mental disturbance. And that's the important point that we have to keep in mind. So if we have physical reactions, if I'm shaking in my body as I'm getting angry, as it happens quite often with most of us, it is a sign that now that anger has become a force of its own and it is controlling me. Right? That is the most important aspect about that kama krododbhavam vegam. It is born out of kama krodha and it has become a force of its own that now it begins to control me. That desire has now possessed me. That anger or that rage has now possessed me. Right? We are talking about that kind of an anger, and that invariably has some kind of a physical manifestation. You start stuttering when you're angry, or you start shaking. I think it happens to most of us. Or your heart starts racing. And this can be seen in both cases, when you very, very strongly crave something, at the same time when you're very agitated about something. So there is a physical manifestation, and that is what Adi Shankara also refers to when he says that these are the different physical changes in your body that you will notice when you have this kind of kama krodha vega. So in this shloka, Krishna is not speaking about the desires, is not speaking about anger or frustration. He is specifically speaking about dealing with that force or vegam that comes and controlling that in this very lifetime, in this worldly life that we are leading. If you think of it, that is the opportunity that living in the society gives us. It puts us in different situations. It stirs that kama and krodha and gives us an opportunity to deal with that force that is born out of that. And this will eventually lead to one not having that kama at all, right? Which is the state of the jnani. We've spoken about anger management earlier too, so I will not go into it much in detail. So put it very briefly, the buddhi or the discrimination can be used in various stages of this process of we becoming angry. Now what happens after I get angry? Let's say somebody has really disturbed me and I become very angry. I've also expressed it by means of shouting at that person. After some time what happens is I start thinking. What do? I use my buddhi or my discrimination to brood over the whole thing. I say that, okay, I probably lost it a little too much, or I should not have said this. I lost control of myself, right? That's what we're trying to talk about, the anger which takes control of us. So all of this happens after I have expressed my anger. Instead, can we bring this discrimination between anger arising in the mind and it expressing itself in words and action. That way, we will be dealing with the vegam or the force born from that krodha. And slowly, that discrimination will automatically happen, right? The moment the mind is disturbed, when a desire or an anger arises, there is disturbance in the mind and it triggers that discrimination instantly. It becomes like a reflex when we have done that discrimination on a number of occasions. So with time, that discrimination becomes instant as soon as we are disturbed. Eventually, since you're always discriminating and contemplating about, is it worth being angry and this is all right. And when you also bring in the spiritual dimension, as the discrimination now will become the contemplation about what is real and what is unreal, as we've spoken about earlier, the nitya anitya vastu viveka, as it is called. Now the discrimination becomes like, what am I brooding over? This is after all not worth, or this is anitya, this is not worth investing time on. The mind eventually reaches a state where it is not going to fall for these sense pleasures at all, which means that this discrimination now happens even before the desire arises in the mind, right? So it sees all desires as adyantavantaha. They have a beginning and an end, so they cannot be nitya, and hence that discrimination comes to a state where it is so spontaneous that it arises in the mind even before the disturbance happens in the mind. So initially the discrimination happens after the disturbance and after the expression, and after you cool down, you start discriminating. You bring it back a little, where before you express it, you are discriminating. And then it comes to a point where you're constantly discriminating about it. So the moment there is a disturbance in the mind, it is negated. Eventually it comes to a point where there can be no disturbance at all, because you're constantly involved in this internal reflection of what is real and what is unreal. So an individual who has achieved this within one's lifetime has already achieved the highest. Krishna had said this even in the 19th verse. He said, here itself, in this lifetime itself, you will receive the reward. So in this case, Krishna puts it as a mandate that even as we are striving to reach this, even as we are striving to reach the state of being able to counter this force which is born out of Kama Krodha, we should try to achieve it in this lifetime itself, right? So that is the mandate, or that is the instruction that Krishna is giving. So this is not something that, if I keep doing sadhana all my life, then I will reach this state after this life. No, it is not in that manner. One must strive to achieve this within this lifetime. If I am getting angry 5 times a week, can I make it 3 times a week in the course of, say, a month? So it is something that you have to really, it should be a tangible difference and a tangible change that happens within each one of us. And that's why I said that shloka is as much applicable for a jnani as it is applicable for a spiritual aspirant, as it is applicable for a normal person. Because as Swami very beautifully says in a discourse, he says, getting angry, hating somebody, or getting irritated, being jealous, these are all like fires that burn you from within. It is like, imagine yourself immolating yourself. All of these qualities are like that. So Swami says, who would want to do that? You don't have to be a spiritual person to not self-immolate, right? Even a worldly person doesn't want to spoil his or her health. So this shloka, and probably even the next one, applies as much to even a normal person who wants to be a sukhi nara, who wants to be a happy person. As simple as that, right? So that is the 23rd verse. We'll listen to the 24th verse and we'll discuss about that after I give you the brief meaning.
Yontas sukhontararamah tathantarjyotireva sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodhigacchati.
One who is happy within whose pleasure is within, and who has his light only within, that yogi, having become Brahman, attains absorption in Brahman. So that is verse 24 of the 5th chapter. A few verses back, we had seen a play of words with the word tat, right? I think not very long ago. In this shloka, we are seeing a play of words with the word antaha, or within. There are many ways of defining what a spiritual life is, especially if you're trying to contrast it with a regular or a worldly life. One of the very effective ways is to say that a spiritual life is turning inward, and the worldly life is always looking outward, and that is why they are called the Nivritti Marga, the inward path, and the Pravritti Marga, or the outward path. So in the spiritual journey, everything is within. The goals are within, the achievements are within. The way to check progress is to see within. If there is a problem, the solution is sought within. If one wants happiness or peace, one seeks within. So turning within is probably one of the very apt descriptions you can give for a spiritual life. So this shloka is a reference to that turning within. And that Krishna does by very beautifully playing with the word antaha, or within. He says, Yaha, one who is antasukhaha, whose happiness is within, antararamaha, one who revels in that which is within, tatha yaha, also who is antarjyotihi eva, illumined by what is within. What happens to such a person comes in the next line, but what are these three qualities that Krishna is mentioning? We will first discuss about that and how we can look at it from the point of view of our own lives. Firstly, he says, Antasukhaha, whose happiness now lies within. This is quite simple, a definition that Krishna has been giving about jnani on many occasions before. If we critically look at our lives, we all have this need for inner happiness and outer happiness, right? Even within our own lives, forget about being a spiritual person or being a sadhaka or being a karma yogi and all of that. Even for a simple life, we need both these kinds of happiness, inner happiness and outside happiness. In fact, this distinction can be clearly seen when in certain occasions. Let's say I'm internally very disturbed because of something. Something is happening in my workplace, or something is happening in my life, or to my dear ones, and I'm disturbed. At that moment, give me the tastiest of meals. But my mind, if it is disturbed, I will not be able to enjoy that tasty meal that is in front of me. When my mind is so disturbed, give me the most comfortable of beds and the most coziest of rooms. If I am depressed, I will not get a good night's sleep, right? So there is certainly these things which we can clearly see as inner happiness or inner peace, or something outside that contributes to our happiness and contributes to our peace. The problem is that many of us give too much importance to the happiness that is experienced through the objects that are outside of us. So this is something that we know from our experience, that there is an inner happiness and an outside happiness. Forget about all the material objects, right? That is one set. When you look at our own life with Swami and when we were students, imagine even when we were in Swami's presence, when Swami himself was sitting before us, if our mind was disturbed, we could not enjoy Swami's presence. And I think that is a very, very telling fact as to this inner world and the outer world, and how important it is to focus on this inner world. What more can you want? The very epitome of whatever we want to achieve in this world. Swami was right in front of us, but there were occasions when we would sit there and our mind would be disturbed. It could be something as silly as there was an exam the next day which we were not prepared for. we were not able to enjoy Swami's presence, right? I'm not telling that the exam becomes more important than Swami. It is not in that way. If we have allowed something to disturb our mind, with a disturbed mind, even if the happiness in front of me is perfect in that sense, I will not be able to relish it. And in Swami's presence, I think that was one of the lessons that we learned. It is so important to look within and set right what is within, even if you want to enjoy what is outside of you, right? So as much time as we give to gathering objects and people in search of this happiness, the starting point is at least as much of that time we must give to set right what is within, set right our mind, right? And this we have to do in pursuit of happiness itself, in pursuit of moksha or liberation or a place in heaven. Even in pursuit of happiness, we must give as much time to set right the inside as we are giving to earn money and to earn name and fame, gathering those objects which will externally contribute to our happiness. Then will come a time when we are only bothered about this inner happiness, that balance of time which we are giving, the balance of time between the inner happiness and outer happiness will tilt so much towards this inner happiness that we will be more and more bothered about setting this inner happiness right. For example, when I perform a task, I will only be looking for Atma Santushti or self-satisfaction. I am at a crossroads. I have to make a decision. I will not ask, what if I do, I will gain and thereby be happy, right? What if I do, I will materially gain, because material gain also will give me happiness, or that's the idea I have. I will rather ask, what if I do, I can be at peace with myself. So there will be this constant search for inner peace and inner balance. Antasukha, right? That is what it means. Antasukha means, now that has become my priority. I am not looking at the objects that will give me happiness, but I've turned myself within and say that I can set right this happiness within, right? So then Krishna goes on to say, Antararamaha, one who revels in that which is within. One way of describing this statement is that a person is attached or focused on the Atma which is within, the self which is within. But look at it this way, which probably will be more applicable to each of us. How many of us are afraid to be lonely? How many of us are afraid to be by ourselves? We constantly want someone to be with us. I'm not saying only in the form of people. If not people, in fact, it has changed so much that we don't want to be with people, because being with people is actually quite draining. But we want gadgets, we want a phone, we want the internet, we want to be connected to the world virtually, right? These are signs that we don't like to be alone. As we grow on the spiritual path, we will not want to run away from ourselves. In a sense, we will revel in what is within. We will revel in solitude. So that is also one of the ways of looking at it, in my opinion, right? You don't detest your own company. In fact, you enjoy being with yourself, because what is within has become so beautiful that you don't mind the company of what is within. You don't need somebody outside to take you away from what is within, right? That's what happens with most of us. We don't want to be left alone with our thoughts. We don't want to be left alone with ourselves. So somebody who will become an Antararama is one who revels with what is within. The same trait when we speak of in the context of a jnani, or at least someone who is able to constantly remember that there is only one self in all. The self in me is the same as the self in everyone. So imagine that state of mind. The person who knows that the inner self is the same in all the bodies around. Imagine I'm in that state. I will look at the world with a certain amusement, isn't it? Amusement of my own self. It is the same self that is within, that is playing all these different forms In somebody it is playing mischief, in somebody it is playing like a crook, in somebody it is being a saint, in somebody it is being a thief. So I will look at this world with a certain sense of amusement, not anger or jealousy or irritation, because it is my own self which I am seeing in all of these different forms. The Swami would often give an example, and I'm sure we would have given it in other programs. In fact, we spoke about this even this morning. Swami would say, when a dog goes into a house of mirrors, the dog thinks that it has entered a room where there are hundreds and hundreds of dogs, and it gets very agitated, it starts barking and it starts bouncing on the glass. But the same house of mirrors, when a man enters it, he very well knows that it is his own form that is being reflected on all these mirrors. And what happens to us when we are put in front of a nice life-size mirror? Well, we are amused with ourselves, right? I don't think there are very few people who don't like to be in front of a mirror. The moment you're in front of a mirror, you look at yourself from different angles, you smile, you set right your hair, right? Because you're amused. You're not looking at the reflection as somebody else. You're amused with yourself. And that is what happens in the case of a jnani who knows that all beings around carry that same self that is within him. He is amused with his own self, antararamaha. Finally, Krishna says in the shloka, antarjyotihi, who is illumined from what is within. This is another way of saying that all ignorance has been removed, because Krishna had said this a few shlokas back too. He said, when the ignorance that is clouding the self is removed, the self shows itself in its own light. Right? That's what Krishna had said sometime earlier in this chapter. This can also be told that one is now absolutely clear, right? There are nothing that is blocking this person's understanding. There is nothing that is deluding this person's discrimination. There are no confusions in this person. He or she doesn't depend on others to guide them and give them clarity. They are self-illumined, because each one of us has this source of knowledge within. Right? That is the premise with which Vedanta works. Each one of you is divine. Each one of you have that source of perfect knowledge within. And it is this idea of body consciousness that clouds this. Right? So when I'm able to remove this, or increasingly when I begin to remove this, the more and more I will be self-dependent in me being able to see clearly, right? That is one of the ways of saying antarjyotihi. Swami would often say that when you make it a habit to listen to your conscience, right? Antarvani, Swami would call the conscience, one of the words that Swami would use. It is the voice within. When you make it a habit to listen to your conscience, you will see that progressively you will find it more and more easier for you to bring out this wisdom from your conscience. You're in a dilemma, you're in a crisis, you don't know what to do. You just have to take a moment to look within and you'll know what you're supposed to do. And even in the case of a spiritual aspirant, you'll find that this antarjyotihi, he turns within for counsel more and more often than he or she turns without. But in the case of a jnani, this is perfect. All his wisdom comes only from within. So through all these phases, Krishna speaks about a jnani as one who is turning within, or a spiritual aspirant as one who is turning within, and a jnani as someone who is completely dependent on what is within. And such a person, Krishna says, sayogi, such a yogi, brahma bhutaha, becomes Brahman, Brahmani, Brahma nirvanam adhigacchati, attains absolute freedom or moksha. So what is this Brahma nirvanam that he speaks about? We will speak about that even in the next shloka, because the word is used even in the next shloka. So we'll listen to shloka number 25 and we'll discuss about that before concluding for this week.
Labhante brahma nirvanam ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधा यतात्मानः sarvabhutahite rataah.
Sages whose sins have been washed away, whose sense of separateness has vanished, who have subdued themselves and seek only the welfare of all, come to the eternal spirit. So that's the 25th verse of the 5th chapter. In the previous shloka, Krishna said that such a person attains Brahma Nirvanam. Here he continues to speak of such a person. Here he calls them Rishayaha or Rishis, a common usage that we have in our scriptures. So those that have become Kshina Kalmashaha, in whom the flaws have been completely destroyed. And clearly the flaws that are being referred to are range from the vegam that is born from Kama Krodha, the Kama itself, and the delusion which is causing the Kama. So this entirely, and that is why it is said, Kshina Kalmashaha. The flaws have been completely destroyed, right, without a trace. The whole sequence is taken care of. There is no Kama Krodha at all. Why there is no Kama Krodha? Because there are no desires whatsoever. How is it there are no desires? The delusion that one is this limited body and mind has also been removed. That's why Kshina Kalmashaha. The Kalmashas or the flaws have been literally scrubbed out. It is not a superficial cleaning, but it is a thorough cleaning that has happened. So then he describes the person as Chinna Dvaidaha. Chinna Dvaidha. Chinna means to tear apart. Chinna Dvaidha means whose dualities have been torn apart or torn asunder. That's a very interesting way of saying. If you want to counter duality, something that is separate, then you have to put them together, right? Let's say you have a toy that was supposed to be in one piece and it has become two, it is broken. So what do? You stick it together. Or you have a cloth which is torn, which is supposed to be one cloth, then you stitch it together, right? But here Krishna is saying, Chinna Dvaida. The duality is torn apart. How do you tear apart duality? Because here we are speaking about the attitude of duality. There is only one. This delusion that there is many is something like a covering on this knowledge of non-duality. So that attitude is torn apart into shreds and the non-duality surfaces. Then again he says, Yatatmanaha, someone who is in control of oneself. A very important point that keeps coming again and again. Self-control, someone who is self-gathered. So these are some of these traits which keep repeating itself again and again. Samatvam, Yatatmanaha, one who is in control of oneself, and there's going to be one more which is going to come. And the phrase that Krishna makes just next, again something which has been mentioned earlier, and this is not going to be the last time we hear a mention of it. He says, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Hita means welfare or good. Sarva Bhuta Hite means the welfare. Sarva Bhuta Hita means the welfare of one and all. Rataha means one who rejoices or one who enjoys that. So Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha means one who finds delight in the welfare of one and all. So this is another quality, just like how Yatatmanaha is one quality. This is one more quality that we will find being referred to in many, many places. The nature is described as that of the Jnani. At the same time, it is also described as the nature of a Karma Yogi. It is also described as the nature of a perfect Bhakta or a devotee in the later chapters. Which means this is one of the fundamental traits of spiritual progress. Samatvam, for instance, or equanimity is one of the traits that keeps repeating, which means that is a fundamental trait of spiritual progress. Yatatmanaha, as I said, to have control over one's own selves is a quality that keeps getting repeated. So that is a fundamental quality by which you can measure your spiritual progress. Similarly, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha, one who delights when somebody else has something nice happening to them. And we will find different verses which will describe this very beautiful trait in a person. Who doesn't like a person who has this quality, right? So this is again one of the fundamental qualities of a spiritual person. So Krishna says, such a person, labhante brahma nirvanam, obtains absolute freedom. The word nirvana itself means liberation, right? We technically use that. Buddha attained nirvana. We use nirvana itself to mean spiritual enlightenment. But if you look at it from the point of view of language, the word in Sanskrit literally means to extinguish by blowing out. Actually, vati means to blow. So nirvana means you blow something out of existence. You extinguish it by blowing. So the word nirvana can be used in multiple contexts. It can be used in the context of relief from pain. Right? I'm giving you nirvana from pain. It could mean relief from one's problems. But here the reference is not to any kind of nirvana. It is to Brahma nirvana. That extinguishing that leaves one in the state of Brahman. You blow out the delusion and what you're left with is the state of one being identified with Brahman. So that is why specifically Krishna uses the word Brahma nirvana, and he uses it in this verse as well as the previous one. So before we conclude this week and these three verses, let me quickly list down the different traits that Krishna mentions just in these two shlokas. Shloka number 24 and 25. And these are beautiful qualities to recollect and remember that these are the qualities which define a spiritual person, and these, as we have seen, do not refer to any religion, do not refer to any caste or any kind of upbringing. These are probably traits of a wise person, a good person, a person who wants to benefit the people around, right? These are all simple traits, and that's why goodness never goes out of fashion in the spiritual journey. So there are 7 qualities that Krishna mentions. I will just quickly recall them and we'll conclude with that. Quality number 1, he says, Antas Sukhaha, one who seeks happiness within. Antararamaha, one who revels in that which is within, revels in one's own company, revels in one's own good thoughts. Antarjyotihi, he is illumined by the light within, one who turns within for solutions, one who turns to the conscience when one has to take decisions. The 4th quality is Kshina Kalmashaha, the flaws of Kama Krodha Vegam, of Raga and Dvesha have been completely destroyed in this person. Chindadvaidha, even the basic delusion of duality has been torn apart in this individual. Yatatmanaha, someone who is in control of oneself. And finally, the beautiful phrase, Sarvabhuta Hite Rataha, one who finds delight in the welfare of others. So these are the various qualities that are mentioned in these 2 shlokas, and we'll conclude. I most humbly offer this effort at Swami's lotus feet, and do join me again next week. Till I meet you all next week at 7:30 p.m. Take care. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrashak Bhakta Jana Samrashak Bhakti Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashi Bhagana Shri Kara Sarva Pranapade Swami Sarva Pranapade Ashrita Kalpala Jita Ashrita Kalpala समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। 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 ॐ